And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I guess Summoner Wars has been worked on for quite a while. I hadn't heard of it. I didn't follow, but it's been designed. The designer of Summoner Wars, Colby, is the head of the largest Heroscape website on the internet, heroscapers.com. Heroscape, you know, that game that comes with the cool terrain and miniatures, and you can throw around and it still stays in one piece. Really great game, one of my favorite games, you know that. So if he's a big fan of Heroscape and he says this is a good game, I'm certainly willing to check it out. And was I ever surprised? Let's look at it. Summoner Wars is played on the paper map, and alright, let's unfold this thing and put it down, and smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth. I suppose you could play without the map, but it's still pretty useful. As you can see, Summoner Wars is basically this big grid where you'll be playing against your opponent. Now, each player takes a deck of cards. Now, as the game is built, you're going to be able to build your own deck of cards, but for now, the decks of cards are made for you. Right now, there are 4 factions in the game. There are the Guild Dwarves, the Cave Goblins, the Tundra Orcs, and the Phoenix Elves. So let's say, for example, I picked this group, and this will tell me where to put my starting forces. So you're going to be putting your forces on the board, and it will tell you how to place them. So I put out my starting forces in the blink of an eye. The rest of my cards are going to be placed down here in a draw pile. Now this is important because these piles have a lot to do with the game. Over here you have your magic pile and your discard pile. Now your forces that you put on the board are all different forces, but your main guy is your summoner. So here's a summoner, Olden, the summoner of the Guild Dwarves, and he has special abilities and such. If your summoner is killed, you lose. If you kill the opponent's summoner, you win. There is no other victory conditions. That's all there is. And so the game is all about tactical combat. Now, when you look at each person, there's some symbols here. First of all, there's a symbol in the upper corner, and that's how many dice you roll when you attack. So you'll see that he rolls 2 dice when he attacks. This defender rolls 1 die when he attacks. Underneath it, it shows how many hit points. Olden has 6 hits it takes to kill him. This defender needs 2 hits to kill him. Then underneath that is how many cards you need to bring him out on the board. Your summoner starts on the board, but he can summon this guy for the cost of 1 card. This symbol here shows that this guy is hand-to-hand combat only, while Olden is ranged combat. This symbol here shows what faction they're in, and then there's a special ability that each of them has. And then a picture for artists. The first thing you do on your turn is you draw up to 5 cards. So if you have less than 5 cards, you'll draw 5 more. These cards will be more units, which are either commons or champions. You can only have 1 of each champion in your deck, and in commons there can be multiple different commons on the board. Or these special event cards that you can play on your turn, spells per se. And then of course you might draw more walls. Walls are important because the second thing on your turn is you can summon people. You can use any cards you have in your magic pile. You discard those cards to the discard pile to summon things. Summon things must go next to a wall. So if you have no walls on the board, then you cannot summon anything. Walls can be attacked. You can see they have a lot of hit points, but they still can be attacked and destroyed, which would cause you not to be able to put anything out on the board. Now, remember, as I said before, you have cost to summon these objects. In the beginning of the game, you have no cards in your magic pile. You can also play these special event cards that will affect both you and your opponent. The problem with these event cards, at least for me, is that they all have the same artwork. I really wish that different event cards, see this one's Magic Drain and this is Reinforcements, I really wish that they had different artwork. One thing I will say is that these event cards are very powerful. Each team has one that's especially helpful, like the Reinforcements. If the opponent has more forces than you and you're falling behind, a card like this can really help you out. Saving these and playing these at the right time is very useful. You can play them at the beginning thinking it will help you out, but you got to be very careful. After you summon, you can then move up to 3 units on the board. They can move 2 spaces each, and then you can attack with 3 of your characters on the board, although you don't have to do the same ones that you just moved. When you attack, I already mentioned that, you roll the number of dice that it shows on the big number there. So this defender attacks with a 1. He rolls a single die. A 1 or a 2 is always a miss. A 3, 4, 5, or 6 is always a hit. although everyone has special abilities that allow them to hit or ignore hits, or different things like that. Also, some characters have ranged, which means they can hit someone up to 3 spaces away. Champions are more powerful characters, but they're also much more difficult to get out on the table. At the end of your turn, after you've moved and attacked, you can take as many cards as you want from your hand and put them face down on your magic pile. Another neat thing about the game is whenever you kill an opponent, their card also goes on your magic pile. So killing opponents gives you more magic. You will then use this magic later on and discard that to summon more creatures to your side. But once you have a card in your hand and you've gotten rid of it, you will not be able to use it again. Once you run out of cards from your draw pile, you're still in the game, but you're stuck with whatever you have on the board at that point in time. First person to kill the opponent's summoner wins. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's 4 factions in the game, and they are completely different factions. Your orcs, Tundra orcs, are very strong, but they're also fairly slow and have very little range. But they get in hand-to-hand combat with you, you're going to lose. The opposite of that would be the elves, who are also very strong, but they have a ranged ability. They're not as strong as the orcs, and they have an ability basically to hit without rolling dice. The goblins are really cheap, and you can flood the board with them very quickly, except they're very weak, and so you have to be able to deal with that. But they're fast and cheap. And then the dwarves have they're kind of in the middle, but their ability to destroy walls can really put a cramp in the other opponent's style. If you don't watch out, you won't be able to summon anyone else, and then the dwarves will run all over you. They all have a very different feel. There's supposed to be expansions in the future that will add to both of these armies, add new armies, and add mercenaries that can be put into each deck. I'm always kind of wary about games that use cards to attack the other person with, but I guess I shouldn't because Battlegrounds Fantasy Warfare is one of my favorite games. I love miniatures, but using cards is a neat idea. The only thing I don't like about Summoner Wars is the paper map, because it's just a pain to unfold and fold each time. But other than that map, I am really impressed. These are small decks, just over 30 cards in each deck, and so you will get every card in your deck. You will get to draw every card in your deck. So if you want to play a card, you will be able to do so. But you're going to have to choose cards that you don't want to play to put down in your magic pile to put out other units. And it's very fast. You need to go, attack, and win. And so there's tactics on moving your people on the board and dealing with cards. Should I play this card or should I put it in my magic pile? And how many enemies can I kill to add to my magic pile? Falling behind means nothing. You can be losing, and if you can take out that enemy summoner, you win. I am very impressed with this game. It is absolutely fantastic. I really look forward to seeing the expansions for it. It's a small box that the game comes in, and the 4 factions, I'm really impressed with how balanced they are, and yet how completely different they feel. I might be raving a little bit, but this is one of the best games of 2009, and I hadn't even heard of it till December now. Fantastic game. Definitely give it a try.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.